reason I don't go to a house of worship is I like fire and brimstone. Instead, I get Mr. Rogers and Mr. Pieper. So I stopped going a long time ago. Whether it was a church where they got more concerned with sending canned goods to Nicaragua, or a synagogue where I had rabbis trying to do Woody Allen imitations and made the whole thing about bagels and lox. I stopped going. So I like fire and brimstone. So if I want fire and brimstone, when I need a dose of religion, I go back to the source itself, which is the Bible. And it's not really a pleasant book to read. It's really not a very forgiving book, because the Lord is not a forgiving God. God himself is not really forgiving. Now, Jesus, in the Christian Bible, the Christian people will tell you that Jesus is forgiving, and that may be so. But if you read the so-called Old Testament, which is the Bible itself, it is a book of fire and brimstone. It is the book that the fundamentalists still read. At least that's when the churches were full, and the churches that are full are the churches where the preacher pounds the podium and he reads Isaiah 27, and it's relevant to today's news. He says, "Behold, the name of the Lord cometh from far, with his anger burning and in thick uplifting of smoke. His lips are full of indignation, and his tongue is as a devouring fire." Now, what's interesting to me is they're talking about God. They use the word anger, burning, indignation. His tongue is like a devouring fire. His breath is as an overflowing stream. And why? He wants to sift the nations with the sieve of destruction. You hear that one? God is going to sift the nations with the sieve of destruction. He didn't want all nations to survive then, and he probably doesn't want all nations to survive now. Now, you may say it's not Christian for the innocent to die. I would suggest you read the Old Testament and see what the Bible has to say about innocent dying in warfare. There was no distinction between the guilty and the innocent. Once the dervish of war began, it was kill or be killed. Once the dervish of war began, there was no religion, there was only survival. And my friend, I am afraid that the psychotics will hold up their holy book and say that God wants them to kill you, and they can prove it right here and right now, and here's a passage which says it. Or you can go on my website on michaelsavage.com and take a look at these filthy little men with dirty little beards who have held hostage the entire world of Islam, sending it back beyond even the 9th century to the 7th century. Because as I've shown you through a historical arc, I've traced the arc of the Muslim rise from the 7th century onwards, and I have told you that by the 9th century, the fanaticism of the 7th century was already lessened, and there was integration between the peoples, the Muslim peoples and the others. They got along, they worked together. These throwbacks are trying to take Islam back even further than the 9th century. They're taking Islam back to the beginnings, to the 7th century. Think about what I'm saying to you. If you're a Muslim, you better pay careful attention. You probably don't even know yourself that these little filthy men with dirty beards do not represent Islam at all. They represent a fanatical form of Islam that even Islam itself fled from in order to develop, in order for the people to prosper and to benefit. And how they have adherents and followers in this country is astounding to me. But then again, when you look at the immigration policies of Bill Clinton, and you look at what Doris Meisner, the then INS commissioner, did with her asylum and reaching out to the Arab Muslim world, bringing in 16 people from one family at a time, putting the whole family on welfare, for example, and then bringing in more relatives, bringing in women wearing black tents over their bodies with only eye slits showing. You understand why we are in the pickle we are in. It all comes back to an immigration policy that was broken by Bill Clinton and further destroyed by George Bush.